Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this 144th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include climate scientist Dr. Katharine Hayhoe. We'll talk about her new book, Saving Us, a climate scientist's case for hope and healing in a divided world. We'll also visit with actress Brooke Butler about her new movie Lantern's Lane, which will be available on Friday. We'll also visit with host Dylan Lane. The new season of Chain Reaction premieres Monday, November 8th on Game Show Network. We'll also visit with auctioneer couple Dan and Laura Dotson about the new season of Storage Wars, which is available on A&E. And we'll also visit with country singer and songwriter Creed Fisher. We'll talk about his new single, People Like Me. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and of course, share with your friends. Now, this seems unnecessary and over the top, so in 2021, it's of course an actual thing that someone's selling. An ice cream brand, Salt and Straw, is selling a new line of Thanksgiving flavors, including one made with real turkey. Now, the flavor is called caramelized turkey and cranberry sauce, and it's got turkey bacon mixed in. So not actual hunks of light and dark meat, but still ice cream with turkey in it. Now, the other ingredients are cranberry sauce, thyme, and ground pepper. It's one of 5 Thanksgiving flavors they're selling as part of their Friendsgiving series. Now, the other 4 flavors are house rolls with salted buttercream, sweet potato pie with double-baked almond streusel, pumpkin and ginger snap pie, and candied walnut cheesecake. You can get a variety pack with all 5 flavors at saltandstraw.com. It's $65 plus shipping. We've got acclaimed climate scientist Dr. Katharine Hayhoe going to talk about the book Saving Us, a climate scientist's case for hope and healing in a divided world, available now. And first off, Dr. Hayhoe, appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Now, tell us, as a climate scientist, the times that we're living in, climate change is one of those things. I think everybody's got an opinion about it. And how do we make change in the midst of all that we're living through in the first place, Dr. Hayhoe?
Well, so often we feel like climate change is just one more issue that people are trying to shove onto our list when we're already exhausted. Just trying to, take care of the kids, pay the bills, keep our jobs, have a safe home to live in, and just get ourselves through this global pandemic. And I completely hear that, and I'm going to say something that's probably surprising from a climate scientist perspective. I don't think climate change needs to be on anybody's priority list at all. Why not? Because the only reason I care about it is because it affects everything that's already at the top of my priority list. It affects the future of my child. It affects the safety of my home. It affects the bills that I pay for my air conditioning and for my insurance and more. It affects the safety of the world that we live in. It affects the global economy. And most of all, it affects the poorest and most vulnerable people right here where we live, as well as on the other side of the world. So it's not a case of sort of trying to move climate change up our priority list. It's a case of recognizing that the only reason we care about it is because everything that we already care about is what climate change threatens. And so that means that whoever you are, you're the perfect person to care about it and to make a difference. And the way that we start that difference is simply by talking about it, because you know what? Most of us don't.
Very, very right. We're afraid of where it might lead in a conversation, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, we're afraid that either it's going to start a fight or we're just going to end up more depressed than when we started. And I hear you. I don't want to have a conversation like that either. So here's the secret. I'm going to give away the secret of the book right here. Begin a conversation with something you agree on. And in the book, I tell stories about how I've started conversations over kids, over a sport I love, over the fact that I enjoy knitting or wine. Start a conversation over something that we agree with and we share. Connect the dots to how climate change is affecting that. And then always, always bring in a positive, constructive solution that helps us realize that we can be part of the solution too. We don't have to be part of the problem. We can be part of the answer. And that leaves us empowered and energized and feeling like, wow, we might actually have a chance of fixing this thing.
And Dr. Hayhoe, along with that, you don't have to bring conservative or liberal or any kind of values along with us, just your personal values. It's not a political discussion. It shouldn't be a political discussion.
It shouldn't at all, because a thermometer is not Democrat or Republican. It doesn't give you a different answer depending on how you vote. And a hurricane does not knock on your door and ask you who you voted for in the last election before it floods your house.
And before we came on, and I mentioned to you that the key message is that feelings matter more than facts when it comes to inspiring change in our behaviors. And can you expound on that, if you will, to our listeners?
So most of us are actually worried about climate change. Over 70% of us are worried, but half of us feel helpless and hopeless. And if we don't know that there's anything we can do to fix it, we won't fix it. So the most important thing we're missing is not more scientific facts about how fast the Arctic is melting. The most important thing that all of us are missing is a sense of agency or efficacy, the idea that, is there anything I can do that can make a difference? And the answer to that is a big yes. And I'm not even going to mention light bulbs or solar panels. The biggest thing that you and I can do is talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, why would anybody care? And if we don't care, why would anyone want to do anything about it? It's not about our personal carbon footprint. It's about what I think of as our shadow, the way that we influence others by talking about why something matters and how wherever we work, wherever we live, where our kids go to school, where we go to school, where we go to church, wherever we are, have conversations about, hey, I heard this interesting radio show and you wouldn't believe what she said. I wonder what we could do as a business. You know, where do we get our energy from? Do we use clean energy? Have we done an energy audit? What about the food waste in our cafeteria? How could we cut down on that? How could we save some money? And how could we also cut our carbon emissions working together? Be creative. There's so much we can do. And when we work together, that's where we find our hope.
And Dr. Hayhoe, how easy is it for folks to enact change that will also affect climate change as well? I mean, how easy is it for average Joe, if you will?
Well, all of us have something that we can do. We truly do. And it literally begins with having that conversation about why it matters to us and what we together could be able to do to make a difference. And of course, we can make differences in our personal lives. Step on a carbon footprint calculator and figure out what your own footprint looks like. But the bigger impact we can have is through talking with others where we work or where we live. Again, you know, where we go to school or where we go to church. Talk about, hey, what can our church do together? What can our school do together? What can our business do together? How could we be more efficient and less wasteful with our energy and save money? And how could we also cut our carbon emissions and be part of the solution too? Every single one of us has something that we can do.
That's right. And again, the book is available now, Saving Us, a Climate Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in a Divided World. Hope and healing in the worlds we live in. You get those in a book title. Dr. Hayhoe, you're doing pretty well. Let's just say that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
Have you ever been so annoyed by something that you wish that it was illegal? Like, say, Christmas music less than a week after Halloween. Well, there is a thread online where people are suggesting everyday things that should be outlawed. And here are 10 highlights. Number 1, sending sick kids to school. Number 2, radio commercials that play car horns, sirens, or crash sounds. Number 3, parents who allow their kids to watch or play loud videos and games in public. Number 4, leaving a shopping cart in a parking space. Number 5, making articles of clothing with fake pockets. Number 6, meetings that should have been an email. Number 7, people who cut you off and then slow down. Number 8, asking people questions while using a urinal or toilet. Number 9, talking on a speakerphone in public. And number 10, chewing with your mouth open. A new movie available in theaters this Friday. It's called Lanterns Lane. We've got actress and she's also a well-versed cheerleader as well, Brooke Butler, with us. And Brooke, it's a privilege to have the chance to visit with you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Now, tell us, Lanterns Lane coming out on Friday. Tell our listeners a little bit about the premise behind the movie and how excited you are to have a new movie out there right now.
Oh, very excited. I think my favorite thing about this movie is that Lanterns Lane is a real place. Our director, Justin, grew up close to Lanterns Lane, where a woman in the 1800s apparently went looking for her husband, and both were found dead, and they can still see her walking around the property with a lantern. So he took that idea and decided, okay, what if a group of estranged high school students, all of them had stayed in the town and kind of remained the same. My character, Layla, had left, gone to the big city, and come back for the first time. And they all try to go back to this place called Lanterns Lane to, kind of relive some of their high school moments. And then they end up being trapped in this home, not knowing what's coming after them. It's very claustrophobic. And basically trying to fight to survive the night.
and this is actually after Halloween. I was watching the trailer just a little bit ago, and I was like, this is a great post Halloween. I mean, we still got to have a little bit of a little fright after Halloween, though, right?
Yeah, right. It can never end. I'll watch horror movies, scary movies all year round. And I think there's something special that it came out right after Halloween. I think October was really busy for people as well. So it's kind of like an extra cherry on top here right after the Halloween weekend.
And as things are opening back up, how has the process, how has the work changed, or how have you had to evolve most? I guess that's the question I want to ask.
Well, most of my callbacks and auditions and interviews like this, I'm sitting right now in my kitchen nook. So I really do. I love being able to look a reader in the eye and really connect or do chemistry reads. And that's kind of gone by the wayside for the moment. And so I'm hoping it comes back, because there's something magical about being in the room, letting people see who you really are, instead of, you in your living room setting up a camera being like, I'm an actor. So I do miss some of that connection, but I've got to be on quite a few sets this year. So that has, quenched my soul in that arena.
Now, has the new protocols, has that made it easier or harder for you to find your character and stay in it once you get on set each day?
I don't seem to have a problem with that. But well,
I'm above that. I mean, the regular actors, they have problem, not me.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I do love to reach out to, the other actors that I'm working with ahead of time and create even just, our chemistry, as I would say, I'm Brooke and, you're Cameron, and what's our chemistry? Because at the end of the day, Cindy and Steve don't exist. What exists is Brooke and Cameron. So I like to find out what's there and work off of that. And I'm also a big person who sometimes will put my earbuds in and listen to make playlists for my character and stay in it and stay in that moment. But basically it's all connection for me. So I prep obviously, but if I'm experiencing something in the moment with a different actor and they're giving me something I didn't expect, I like to adjust to that. So really once, action is called, depending on what I'm given and what is going on will actually change what I do. Because how my character, I just like to choose the lens through which my character is looking at life through and then adjust depending on what I'm given.
As you're taking on new characters, how do your characters change you yourself? I mean, I know so many actors, they pull different things from characters that affect them. And was there anything from this role that really personally affected you?
Right. Well, I'll say my favorite thing when I choose to do a film is I like to say, how will this character change me as Brooke? And what will I learn from this character? And what's great about doing a thriller is that every single person on this earth will relate to a fear differently, will respond to a fear differently. So I said, Brooke would respond this way, but how would Layla respond? Because Layla's life is different than Brooke's. And Layla looks at life differently than Brooke. And so leaning into that really helped me create her reaction and how she starts to face the fear and whether or not she decides to become strong and stand up to it or cower in the corner. You'll have to see to find out, You're not
going to give us that away. You're not going to give that away. I see how you are.
I can. I wish I could. There's definitely twists in this movie that I didn't even see coming when I was doing my first read through. Because I think some people look at this and go, okay, another urban legend movie, but it's really not. I think what ends up happening is something I haven't seen before. So that's what I loved about it.
Now, working on a thriller, I mean, when I think about thrillers, I think about the scream queens and all that stuff. Do you have to get yourself vocally ready to come into a thriller as well? I mean, do you have to stretch the vocal cords, get ready for those screams that are upcoming?
For sure. I mean, I love singing. That was really my first love when I was a kid. I grew up doing, Les Miserables and Footloose. And so I think I know how to protect my voice and, not do a scream and then be like, I'm out for the rest of the day. So I think I naturally already had that vocally warmed up.
That's cool. Now, Brooke, how excited are you to have a movie in theaters? I mean, we've seen a lot of movies released. I mean, we've seen a lot streaming and all that, but the experience in the theater, I mean, how excited are you that those opportunities are reopening as well?
Oh, extremely excited. For a while there, especially with everything with COVID, people weren't going to the theater. And I think that's so sad because I think the arts throughout history, like even when it was the Great Depression, theaters were still the one thing making money because people when life is hard, people need to go to the movies and escape their real life and just have even if it's an hour and a half of joy or relating to someone else. And so I'm grateful that we get to do this. And I have another film that I did with Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo and Kevin Dillon coming out in theaters next year. And yeah, I feel blessed because I think it's my job to give that gift and I don't take it for granted whatsoever.
The new film, Lanterns Lane, it is opening this Friday, November 5th. Brooke, I always want to make sure, and I let our listeners know where they can find more about the movie and then everything you've got going social media-wise as well.
Oh, you can find me at Brookie Serene, Brokie Serene. Serene is my middle name. Apparently, I didn't cry when I was born, but now I scream for a living.
Go figure, right?
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. Well, Brooke, it has truly been a privilege and a pleasure to visit with you. I wish you continued success. Looking forward to the new movie and hopefully catch up again real soon.
Thanks, Cameron. I heard you're a singer too, so I have to look up.
Oh, no. Somebody's been telling stories again.
I listen to all of them.
Now, I wonder if this extends to other aspects of life. I mean, would I do a better show if I wasn't wearing pants right now? Well, a new poll found that people who go to bed in the buff tend to sleep better than people who wear clothes. Now, 53% of people who sleep naked say they usually get high-quality sleep, compared to 27% who wear PJs. And how hot your bedroom is might matter too. 46% of people who like it warm say they usually feel well-rested, compared to 23% who like it cold. And according to the poll, the top things that keep us up at night are worrying about personal stuff, being too hot, and just general insomnia. Got the second season of Chain Reaction that is going to premiere next Monday, November 8th on Game Show Network. And we've got the host himself, Dylan Lane, with us today. And Dylan, first off, I appreciate you taking some time, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Cameron. And hello, Oklahoma. How are you today?
We are a little chillier than usual. I guess I shouldn't complain. We're going to be about 15 degrees cooler tomorrow. So other than that, doing well, though.
You get any frost out there?
Not yet. We'll be close, okay. I think, by the end of the week. But yeah, we try to avoid that here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's true. I got some friends out there that I know, and I've visited out there. So it's a lovely state.
Now, the upcoming season of Chain Reaction, Dylan, what little changes, tweaks have been made, or do you guys just have the best product out there? No changes at all, right?
Well, we haven't changed much. One thing we did was we included, we doubled the number of episodes. So there'll be more episodes to watch, more gameplay, more folks trying to form chains of words with, multi-part pairs of words, and more $10,000 winners this season.
That's now, Dylan. Have you seen a difference in the contestants over the last couple of years? Obviously, coming back for a new season, what have you noticed different in the contestants, if anything?
So I talked about this before on another show, but our casting department at the Game Show Network does a really great job in identifying potential candidates and then also coaching them up to be on the show. So they get a chance that the two teams play the game against one another for, a couple of hours before they're actually contestants on the show. So they're kind of trained up in how to play the game and some strategy. So I think this year you'll see some teams using different strategy, and I think you'll see a lot more competitive games than you did last year.
Dylan, you talk about being coached up before coming on the show. What do you think is the biggest misconception about the contestants that we see on the television?
Well, I think people at home tend to think that contestants just are, they don't know the right answers, or they're way off base in the way they guess the answers. But I got to tell you, if you're not used to being on at a studio on a stage with lights in your face and having to give an answer in 7 seconds, that could be a lot more challenging than people realize. It's like being up on stage in front of a big audience and you have to give a speech, for high school commencement or something like that.
And Dylan, as a host, what was the first time you stepped on the stage as a host as opposed to today? What's the biggest difference you see in yourself?
Well, years ago when I did it as my primary job, I felt a lot of pressure to say and do the right things and to make every moment count. And now, I have a full-time job. And so when I go on to host the game show, I feel like I have less to lose. And so I feel a little bit more freedom from that. It's like, if you had two jobs and one job you just really enjoyed doing, and you weren't too concerned about, making a mistake. That's the way I feel.
That's cool. Now, as the upcoming season progresses, obviously the first episode coming up on Monday, then weeknights moving forward, how's the scheduling look moving forward, Dylan?
Well, I think you're going to see it every night of the week at 5 p.m. And we did 130 episodes this year, so you should be able to see it for quite some time. It's a fun game. And listen, on Monday, the 8th, it just gives everybody an opportunity to cut out of work a little bit early to get home in time for 5 o'clock and throw the TV on.
Now, you talked about 130 episodes. How much of a time frame are we talking that you actually spent in studio on 130 episodes? I mean, that sounds enormous.
Yeah, and a lot of people, so, I'll give you some insight here. A lot of the shows that are on air now are taped in advance. So they're maybe not broadcast live. So we taped 7 episodes a day.
Wow.
Which, from somebody who's got a background doing manual labor and working, for a living, it's not physically demanding, but mentally it's really challenging to do 7 episodes a day, just because you have to be thinking all the time. You have to be playing the game, and you have to be kind of keeping things within the boundaries of the rules. So for me, 7 episodes a day is about right. That's like a, average 10-hour day for folks.
Now, where is your sweet spot in that 7-show day? Is it like number 3? Is number 3 or number 4 like your go-to out of that?
I don't know. I mean, you're always presented with that challenge, like we would do 4 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. And, you've heard the saying, you don't want to buy a car made on a Monday or a Friday, right? So you've got that sweet spot. You don't want to, last episode before lunch, everybody's kind of, hungry, wants to go to lunch. And then the last episode before the end of the day, people are, so I don't know. I think that probably that second or third episode is right in my sweet spot where things sort of get comfortable and the caffeine's kicked in, and you have a good team on that gets some correct answers and there's a competitive gameplay. That's probably the best.
That's good stuff. And again, the second season of Chain Reaction coming up on Monday, November 8th, 5 Eastern on Game Show Network, and then weeknights moving forward. Dylan, I want to make sure and not only let folks know where they can find more info about this show, but also everything you've got going social media-wise as well, sir.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. I think it's my handle's Dylon Lane, and you can always check out GameShowNetwork.com for more information on the Chain Reaction and all the other shows that they've got on there.
All right. Well, again, new season, Monday, November 8th, Chain Reaction. It's been great to visit with you this morning, sir. Appreciate you taking some time, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
That's all right. Thanks for having me on the show, Cameron.
Now, a lot of people have fond memories of the first time they did something, even if the experience itself wouldn't otherwise be notable. You know, your first kiss, your first job, your first felony. Just kidding. Anyway, in a new poll, 82% of people say that there's nothing more memorable than experiencing something for the first time. And 71% of people wish that they could relive some of their favorite firsts. Now, they didn't specify which ones they'd revisit, but people were asked for the first they remember the most. In the top 10 are first job, first love, first kiss, first pet, first car, first concert, first best friend, first home on your own, first international trip, and first night out after your 21st birthday. Now, others that also made the list include first cell phone, first computer, first day of college, and first time voting. Now, unfortunately, there can't be a list of the least memorable first because they're too dull to remember, but for me, first time eating rattlesnake probably tops that list. Dan and Laura Dotson, you remember their names from the Storage Wars, a brand new season. First off, Dan and Laura, really appreciate you guys taking some time.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
Hey, we are so happy to let all of our fans and friends in Oklahoma know about the new show. We're excited.
That's right.
Tuning in and telling a friend.
And you guys are bringing some of the old ones back. That did you ever think that you would see Daryl coming back to the show? Did you guys ever see that happening?
Oh, yeah. He is like the old OG of auctions. And he is,
he loves it.
He loves it.
He loves the attention. He loves to, play practical jokes on people. Daryl's birthday and Laura's birthday are the same day, May 13th. So they get along. They have a very special relationship.
A decade or two apart. But yeah. Yep. He is a fun guy, and he is what you see is what you get.
Yeah, Daryl's a good buyer. He's smart, and he's been around the block a bunch of times, and he's actually a good person also.
How has Storage Wars, how has the business changed over the last couple of years? I mean, everything else has had to kind of shift and do some changing. What are the big changes you guys have seen over the last couple of years?
Yeah, we've gone into the online spectrum. We have a platform called storageauctions.net, the only one on the network, and
along with our live auction company, American Auctioneers.
Yeah, so we've just seen a shift in the business where a lot more people are buying from home. A lot more women are involved in this business than ever were. Probably like 40% of all the buyers online are ladies,
and a lot more spectators. People want to know what's in the box. How do I do this? Let me come out and get some education. So it's really a fun time. We enjoy it. We do it every day together, and I'm just so glad that we're doing it together on the show.
That's cool. Now, what are the things that we can look forward to in the new season? And I know that Daryl's not the only one making a return visit either, is he?
Right. You're going to see Barry.
Yeah, Barry's back for some shows, and we got another buyer named Dusty that is a great buyer, and he's got plenty of money and he's got plenty of common sense. And
you'll see Renee and Casey out there, and I'm telling you, not only are they buying, every day in life, they are one of our biggest buyers. They're constantly. He's on the show. He's got a family that is auction orientated, and they have his wife and his daughter doing it, and you'll see more of that this season.
And is family, is that kind of where most folks get into the purchasing of storage units, the auctions? I mean, I know my dad used to take me to auctions as a youngster, so that's how I got it. Is that the normal, if you will?
That's how Danny got into it.
You know, I've had a lot of buyers come to me and say, God, when I was, 8 years old, you sold me 4x4s down at this little auction, Solomon's auction. Do you remember that? And I'm standing there looking at a guy with 3 kids hanging on him. And I say, well, I'm glad you remember that. You're making me feel pretty old. Thanks. No, it's great.
No, families, it's something absolutely fun and something for kids to get into and watch the show. We never realized it was going to be a family TV show.
Right.
And the kids are dragging their parents in there and saying, look what's in the box. And it's clean fun, sort of.
we try to keep it clean fun. But yeah, that's been a super blessing. Just having all the families get together and enjoying our show. It's great. It's beautiful.
And again, the new season on A&E. And Dan and Laura, I always want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find more info about the show. And then also, like you mentioned, the online process.
Thank you. Yeah, it's storageauctions.net. Subscribe. It's nationwide.
You can bid today.
And AmericanAuctioneers.com. We do live auctions all over the country also. So, it's just not only mini storage and self-storage, but the moving and storage industry. There's a lot of opportunity out there for people to buy and sell and make money.
You never know what's in the box.
You never know what's in the
box. Keep on treasure hunting.
That's right.
That's right. Well, Dan and Laura, I truly appreciate you guys carving some time out of your schedule. Looking forward to the new season, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to pay the lady.
Thank you, Cameron Dole. We appreciate it.
BabyCenter.com just released its list of the most popular baby names of 2021, and for the first time in over a decade, Sophia was not the top girl's name in the U.S. Liam was the most popular name for a boy for the 3rd year in a row, and Olivia was the most popular name for a girl. Now, the last time Sophia wasn't in the top spot was way back in 2009. It dropped all the way to 5th this year. Now, 2 new boys' names cracked the top 10, Levi and Asher, and girls' names that ended with an AH sound are still big. Now, 8 of the top 10 this year fit that mold. Now, the top 10 most popular name for girls in 2021 are Olivia, Emma, Amelia, Ava, Sophia, Charlotte, Isabella, Mia, Luna, and Harper. And the top 10 for boys are Liam, Noah, Oliver, Elijah, Lucas, Levi, Mason, Asher, James, and Ethan. And a few more baby name trends that I noticed is pop culture names were huge this year. Now, maybe because we've watched so much TV over the last 18 months. The names Keely, Roy, Jamie, Bex, and Rupert from Ted Lasso were all up. Ted itself dropped in popularity, though. Now, Daphne and Eloise from Bridgerton saw gains, so did Wanda, Agatha, and Darcy from WandaVision, and Vision was 22% more popular for girls, but not boys. Texas singer-songwriter, not just Texas, but country singer-songwriter as well. Creed Fisher with us today, and first off, Creed, it's a privilege to have a chance to visit with you, brother.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
I love the new single. Was checking it out before we came on. People Like Me. Tell us, Creed, where this song came for you and what it means to have it out there, getting the feedback from the listeners.
Well, it's just really nice to be doing some good things on the Texas chart, the Texas country music charts, and the songs. It's for the fans. It's for the blue collar people that like me, that grew up blue collar, and we live hard. We live hard, and we party hard, and we work hard, and that's what it's about. It's really a song for the fans. If it wasn't for the fans, I wouldn't get to do what I love to do. So just really goes out to them. We did the video, that's kind of what the video was about. We packed Billy's Ice House here in New Braunfels, and it's a song about hanging out with people like you, people like Creed.
Now, you talked New Braunfels. Tell us about the music scene there. I know I've got nephews that are always talking about wanting to get up to New Braunfels again, about the music scene there. What's so special about music there?
Well, I think part of it's the Green Hall. It's in Green, And I just think it's where Lukenbach's not far from here. And, Willie was actually the house band back in the day at Green Hall.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just unique. It's its own, it's its own thing. But I know a lot of Texas artists, live around the area. It's just a beautiful place. You got 2 rivers and a lake. And it's just, it's a happy place, man. So I guess that just translates into music.
It's made for redneck fun. So country music fits right in there, right?
Yes, it does.
Now, Creed, where did music originate for you? Where did you first take an interest in music?
Well, I'd always, I grew up watching George Strait, and when I saw George Strait up there with all the girls screaming, I knew I wanted to do that right there. And so, but, real life, you go through life, and my first real love was football. And so, working and raising kids and playing football, and it just didn't materialize. It wasn't something that I really had time for, to be honest with you. I was married with 3 kids by the time I was 22. So at that time, I was just raising kids and playing football and working. So I got into it a little later on in life, which is, I think, thank God, because if I'd have got famous when I was in my 20s, I'd probably be dead right now.
Yeah, we would all be a little different if things turned out better early, wouldn't we?
Yes. I definitely needed that time to build who I am. And, I'm very proud of the fact that I worked 20 years in the oil field as a journeyman electrician. So I think that shows up in my music. And I didn't get into music till I was about 35. I got into karaoke when that stuff came out. I knew I had a good voice and I loved to sing. I was never in choir or anything like that, and so it had always been something that it never really seemed like a reality, but when I got divorced, divorce changes your life in so many ways, because you go from being with your family all the time to now being by yourself all the time.
Right.
And so you really have to find something to do. And I think for me, that was music. And that's kind of how I got started. I think songwriting at that time was therapeutic for me. I had just had all this stuff inside I needed to get out. And that's how I got into it. And I never dreamed it'd come this far.
What has this last couple of years done for you music wise? I mean, have you spent more time on the songwriting, maybe on instrumentation? What have you really been delving into in this time we've had alone?
Well, I've just been putting out a lot of content. I've been in the studio a lot. I put out 4 albums in 2020. And I think since then, that's kind of just been the way I like to do it. I put out a lot of I'm always writing. And so I think, I've had 9 albums out in the last couple of years. One was the greatest hit of my earliest stuff, but I was just able to keep busy writing. And luckily, here in Texas, I'm an outdoors person. So I like to get outside and go to the lake, get out. And I was able to do that, during that period. But I just stayed busy writing songs. I think that's kind of where Whiskey and a Dog came about.
Now, who were the biggest influences on your songwriting? Has it maybe been somebody that you've actually been able to spend some time co-writing with?
No, sir. No, I never really did much co-writing until I was till a few years ago. I would say just my heroes that I grew up listening to, like Merle Haggard. I think my style's somewhat like Haggard. Throw in Waylon and Hank in there, but I was just always more drawn to, when I picked up a guitar, I didn't pick up a guitar to sing Silver Wings. I picked up a guitar to write a song. And that's just how I've always been.
Now, what's the hardest part of the write for you? What is the sticky point for you?
Usually, the second verse, because I'll do that a lot. I'll write a song. I'll write the first verse, maybe the first two verses, and then I'll write the chorus. And once I've got that written, well, the structure of the song's there. Basically at that point how you're going to structure the song. So a lot of times I'll even go into the studio, like with Rebel in the South. A lot of the songs when I went and cut them, I didn't have them finished. I hadn't finished writing the second half of the verse. But so I would say if I have trouble writing a song, that's usually where it's at, in that second half of the song. Just because usually, you don't want to screw it up in the second half of the song. If you got something really, really good going, you want to be real careful. And you always want, if you have a really strong song you're writing, you never want the second half to not be as good as, not live up to the song,
How much do you think that your 20 years in the oil field, the manual labor, the blue collar work, how much do you think that has aided you in the following that you've had from the blue collar crowd as well?
I think that's why the music's authentic, because it's not something I haven't lived. I write about stuff I've lived. And if I haven't lived it, I write about something that like, for instance, with my song Faster, where I sing about, the Old West. Obviously, I didn't live in the Old West, but it's something I feel, it's either something I've lived through or something I've seen. And I think for one, storytelling is a dying art, in mainstream country music. But I just think that's why people relate to it so much, is because it's the things that they're actually thinking. They're in their own head, in their own mind. And so, if you haven't lived it, you can't really talk about it and sell it,
That makes sense. Some other folks should probably follow that rule in life too, right?
It's a good rule, man. Never let you down, I promise.
The touring picking back up. How has the live shows been? And I know you've got an upcoming show where you said you're going to be playing out in the cold. What do you do to prepare yourself physically for that? Because I know playing instruments, it's got to be hard to put too much on, right?
You cannot prepare yourself for that. We're Texans, you can't prepare yourself for that because you don't experience it very often. It happened actually last year too. We played, I think it was 35 degrees when we played Texas Live in Arlington, which was, it's outside as well. And this time we're playing Lava Cantina, and it's supposed to be 48 about the time we play. And I think, man, you just find a good jacket. That's the key.
One that moves with you, right?
Yeah, because you can't play guitar with your hands in a mitten, But I think, the guys that I play rhythm guitar, but the guys that are actually, shredding on the guitars, they keep little heat pocket things in their, in their pockets so they can stick their hand in there while I'm talking in between songs or whatnot. But it's definitely not very comfortable for a Texan.
Yeah, especially South Texan. You guys hardly even have jackets, do you?
There's always a day every single winter where I end up somewhere freezing my butt off. It happens every year about this time because I'm just not used to carrying a jacket around. But yeah, we had the big ice storm of 2021 here in San Antonio last year. And
right.
I think it was the first time in 30 years that it's snowed more than, that much. And it shut everything down. But
you're not looking forward to a repeat in 2022?
I hope we don't have that again. Even though that is when I wrote the song Whiskey and the Dog. We wrote that by candlelight during that ice storm.
That's cool. Now, Creed, as the new single, how many albums do you set the goal for 2021? You got so many in the pipeline this year. Do you have to up your ante a little next year?
No, man, I don't try to really set, I just let it flow. I didn't really, the thing about us is like, it's not that we put out a lot of content, but it's all different. I put out Hellraiser, which was country as it gets. It's got bluegrass songs. It's got really, really traditional country album. And then I did Outlaw Influence Volume 1, where I've been wanting to do that for a long time, where I went and sang Big City by Merle, and it was 12 songs of my biggest heroes. So that's a little different, and then the Wild Ones album was my second Southern rock album. So that's completely Southern rock. It's really out of the box. And then Rock and Roll Man was a unique album as well. Rock and Roll Man is a 45-year-old guy singing through the eyes of a 25-year-old guy. I went back and did my good buddy Zach Stokes. He's had a throat condition now for about 3 or 4 years. He actually just was able to have surgery, and he had some great songs, man. I did 5 of his songs on Rock and Roll Man that I wanted to that I thought the world needed to hear, and so that gave that album a real unique feel as well. So, but for 2021, I've obviously I put out the greatest hits album, all these songs I wrote. Mm-hmm. It's a 30 song compilation of the first 30, instead of calling it the best of or whatever. I have a song called All These Songs I Wrote that was on my first album, Ain't Scared to Bleed. So I put that out in April, and obviously now Whiskey and the Dogs came out October 22nd. Mm-hmm. So for next year, we've got at least 2, probably 3 albums coming. I'm going to do another Southern rock album. I'm doing a Rebel in the South. I'm already finished with. It comes out next summer. I'm really excited about it. And Outlaw Influence Volume 2. So we're staying busy. Staying busy. Now, does the Southern rock, does that help you keep your sanity a little bit, being able to kind of change things up a little bit? It's fun. I enjoy being able to, doing the same things over and over. I like to mix it up, and I think it helps with the live show. And it's just a lot of fun. I love rock and roll. I grew up on Black Sabbath and Ted Nugent, and I would say just having those different varieties of music as a youngin', definitely blended my music to where. But a lot of people think the Wild Ones is the best album I've ever put out. Creed, I want to make sure and let folks know where to find the latest album, where to keep up with updates for the upcoming albums coming up next year, Christmas, all that stuff. Where's the place for folks to keep up with everything you got going on? CreedFisher.com is the website, and anything that has to do with me is you can find right there. Well, that's cool. Again, check him out online, CreedFisher.com. Creed, I know it took us a minute to get this thing hooked up, brother. I appreciate you taking the time today, and hopefully we'll catch you live in studio here sometime soon. Well, thank you so much for having me, man. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Do want to say thanks again for joining us for this 144th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, maybe anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at gqwithcam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, you can visit our merch store where we've got hoodies, shirts, tumblers, mugs, stickers, and more at gqwithcam.com/shop. And if you have a special guest idea, just email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Always want to say thanks to our good friend Brandon Allen, who came up with our theme music. We're going to let him play us out and hope you have a great rest of your evening.